Hi, I'm Joel Dryden.
And I'm Andrew Jeffrey. Over our shoulders, the port of entry in Carway, Alberta. The Canada-U.S. border has been a focal point amid increased tensions between the two countries and threats of tariffs.
We came to visit with people living from Carway to Coutts to see how these new measures are shaping up. It's Thursday morning in Coutts, Alberta, a small town with the province's largest port of entry with the United States.
We are currently on Border Road.
We're going for a ride-along with RCMP Staff Sergeant Ryan Harrison, patrolling a small section of the almost 300-kilometer Canada-U.S. border in Alberta.
Border Road is kind of a shared access road between the Canadians and Americans that extends east of the Coutts town site. It's pretty unique within Alberta's border in that the international boundary line is actually on the north side of the road, and the road itself is within the U.S.
Harrison is in charge of the Integrated Border Enforcement Team, or IBET, which works in tandem with Canadian Border Services and U.S. Border Patrol.
As we travel along, you'll probably see a couple of vehicles from both countries.
Yeah, for sure. Be safe. We'll talk to you again.
His patrol also now works with the province of Alberta's new Interdiction Patrol Team under command of the Alberta Sheriffs.
Today, Alberta's government is taking immediate action.
The announcement came under complaints of a porous border leaking drugs and people, and threats of tariffs on Canadian goods by U.S. President Donald Trump.
Recently, we've seen an increase in northbound foot traffic. Over the last month, we've seen probably 25 people cross. For Alberta, that's a dramatic increase. See how long it takes U.S. Border Patrol to come and find us.
A chain and some fencing are all that separate Coutts, Alberta from Sweetgrass, Montana. People on both sides live, walk pets, even play softball right up to the line. And sometimes people cross it.
Over the last couple of weeks here, we've certainly had a couple of families cross here on foot. They walked directly north into Canada, kind of along this privacy screen here, and then made their way east to the port where they ended up making a refugee claim.
That was the original port of entry, shared port of entry back in 1890.
Coutts' mayor is also a former Border Services officer.
Coutts is just like any other small town, except if you go south out of town, you have to bring a passport. So we're going to have a lot more people patrolling the border, which will be a good thing for everybody. Either we're going to find more, or we're going to find that there's nothing there to find.
Fentanyl is part of that focus.
When this whole fentanyl crisis hit, we were basically ground zero here. I mean, we were, dealing with 5-6 deaths in a week.
The flow of fentanyl is a top priority for the Kainai First Nation, but Police Chief Buckskin says it's not flowing the way the U.S. president thinks it is.
The fentanyl that's leaving Canada into the U.S. is like 1%, and the bulk of it's not coming from Canada.
Darcy Wills looks after a couple hundred head of cattle just east of Coutts.
It's a pretty nice place. It's a small ranch. Just on this side of the ridge that you see is the Alberta-Montana border.
Other than managing his herd, life is quiet on the northern slopes of the Sweetgrass Hills.
I have never had an incident of somebody trying to cross the border on any of my land. Okay, I'm a strong believer in border security, but you have to match the amount of people you have in place with what the real threat is. And what I'm hearing, there may be a bit of an overreaction to this whole border security stuff in this general vicinity. I've got some Montana cattle up here right now, and let's not make an international issue out of simple things like retrieving our cattle from the next door neighbor.
Ford's dog, Jordy, often wanders south too.
Where we live, of course, we're right on the border.
The kitchen window offers up views of Montana's northern edge.
It's very quiet.
Yeah, we've always felt pretty safe and secure. Not a lot happening other than just their everyday stuff, farming, ranching. And the neighbors, we're all kind of keeping an eye out. If we see anything, we'll call it in. Things have been turned on their head in November, so every day is a different day. You don't know what's coming next.
Political noise literally turning up the volume over their farm.
Of course, the Black Hawk flies right over top of our house.
They were flying pretty low, and
Yeah, they do fly fairly low.
it's quite noisy.
It's loud.
It's
You can
loud.
hear them coming.
Blackhawks aren't their only concern.
The red zone thing, kind of, I'm not sure about that.
The red zone is a 2-kilometer buffer from the border north. Here, law enforcement can arrest without a warrant.
And for a government that's been so big on individual rights, property rights, freedoms, it seems kind of odd.
We're across the border now in Sweetgrass, Montana, Coots' next door neighbor. These two communities have been deeply interconnected for generations.
We're not getting married. Very interconnected. I got a lot of good friends that live across the border.
Terrence Hart helps run the Glocamora Motel and Bar.
The Canadians that come down here, of course, we've known them, most of them for years. They're just family. And some are family, actually.
People marry into each other's families. It's a very small, tight-knit community, and Canadian dollars, but Canadian friendships are even more important.
Thank you, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Politics is typically avoided on the rail, but it's hard to ignore when it's the talk of both towns.
I can speak about just about every single person that I know in this county. The tariffs are stupid. Probably most Americans feel that way. Why? It doesn't make any sense.
A growing Canada-U.S. divide doesn't just concern border communities. The Blackfoot Confederacy predates the international border. Culturally significant Chief Mountain in what is now Montana has been a visible monument to the nations from Siksika to Standoff to Brockett to Browning for centuries.
We all speak the same language. We're the same. We're all Blackfoot. We have ceremonies that people attend to down there, and they also come up this way. I think in any situation like this where it involves First Nations crossing freely, it has the potential to become an issue.
The uncertainty of how this will play out has many we've talked to feeling stuck between the politics and practicality of the changes.
Do I feel like we could be a little more vigilant on both sides? Probably yes. The only thing that I worry about is that we do it with the people that actually live here in mind. Putting up barriers on the border road, I don't know how that would look or work. To me as an American, I feel like it's an affront to my Canadian neighbors that I've known that live up and down that road.
People are mad. They're mad about it. And, offended, hurt, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not them. It's their president. So
Yeah.
It's been a close-knit community all these years, and it'd be a shame for that to change. It's definitely caused us some anxiety, and hopefully things will calm down, but I don't know.
From along the Canada-U.S. border, Andrew Jeffrey
and Joel Dryden, CBC News.